Personal finance has become such a trendy topic that everybody's jumping on board. I personally think that's an excellent trend to follow. Financial literacy is one of the most impactful skills that you can learn as a person, whether that impacts your personal or professional life. Financial literacy fits within your personal and professional toolkit to enrich your life in a very meaningful way. Now, if we're considering the personal standpoint, it's critical to understand how to manage your finances because that would have a major impact on how you live your life. A key aspect within financial literacy in a personal setting is budgeting. For myself personally, I run a monthly budget for our family, making sure that we're keeping track of our expenses, planning our budgets, and adjusting accordingly, depending on what life throws your way. And we're not just looking at expenses, but also income streams. So you may be, for example, looking at your job, a second job you might have, that one-off item that you sold on Facebook Marketplace, and so on and so forth. Your personal financial view on a monthly basis enables you to adjust your spending and live life in a comfortable manner. Of course, as I've previously alluded to, this very much fits within planning purposes. So whether it be planning your vacation, depending on how much you've had to spend at the beginning of the year, or enabling you to budget a larger portion of your income for a vacation. It all depends on how you've been spending your money. And the only way to know is to review it in a detailed manner. If you're interested in learning more about the budgeting sheet that I use personally, I'm happy to connect with you personally. You can reach out to me either through the comments below or email me through the email address that is linked to this channel. Now, I don't claim to be an expert at building these kinds of tools. I'm simply demonstrating a tool that works for our family. This is a tool that I built literally from scratch, simply a tool that we honed and created as a family together, which seems to work pretty well for us. We tested it for a few years and fine-tuned certain things such as categories and frequency of checks. We found that monthly checks and adherence to budget has worked very well for us. In addition, the categories are more or less stable, but there are certain tweaks from year to year, depending on the activities, the priorities, and the focus for that year. What you see right at the start is that there are two different tabs or two sheets. These two sheets are essentially the input, which is the sheet we are currently on, and the output. The input, named here itemized, is where I would enter on a monthly basis every single item that we have on our spending. It might seem like a lot of work, but if it's split on a weekly basis, it's a fairly quick thing to do, even if you're a big spender. I usually spend a few minutes every week entering the items in terms of every single spending we've done for that week. And I can usually do this fairly quickly on my phone on downtime. But basically the way it's split is green is income and yellow is spending. I've blurred out the income stream just for privacy reasons. I've also split them into different categories from a higher level in terms of utilities, variable expenses, which are the more frequent spending areas, car and home, and incidental. The last category under incidental, called owed, is basically taxes and other specific commitments. They don't actually mean debt because we're debt free. That is a very critical aspect. Being debt free is part of that personal financial journey that everybody needs to take. It's the first step to creating financial freedom for yourself and for your family. Now the split, of course, on the top in terms of columns is broken down per month. There are 3 columns under each month: budget, actual, and variance. The way I've created this sheet is that it can automatically calculate the variance, meaning deviation from budget. So the only column that needs to be filled is the actuals. And this is automatically filled in based on what's entered under the itemized list. So this output sheet does not need to be filled at all. However, the critical part in this sheet is the budget. Well, how do you budget for things? Simple. Keep track without setting a budget. Based on that, we either fine-tuned, limited, inflated, or kept the same. So if this is the first time that you're creating this kind of tracking of your finances, you'll need a bit of time, at least a few months of stability, while keeping track of how much you're spending in order to create a budget for every single category that you create for yourself. Of course, visuals like a graph or a trend line is very useful. However, some people might find the visual with figures pretty sufficient without the need for a graph. It's all pretty personal. Now, this is an example of a tracking sheet. There are a plethora of different sheets out there, whether free online or paid, created by content creators, created by financial advisors, or even things that you can build for yourself. It's good to start somewhere. But I certainly urge anybody who has not created a tracking method for themselves in terms of keeping track of personal finances to definitely start doing that. And remember, don't wait until the beginning of the year. Today is the right time to start tracking your expenses. Try it, it's actually quite fun.